clearly a very pleasant topic around the Panthers team there. But after what you saw yesterday, does Kyle Allen go back to the bench once Cam Newton is healthy?
No, I don't think that yesterday is an indication of Kyle Allen's performance overall. I mean, they gave up 6.1 yards a carry defensively. They gave up 51 points. There were a lot of things that went wrong for that team yesterday outside of Kyle Allen, and they're in a unique situation where they can take their time on this and really evaluate whether or not he is the answer moving forward, because Cam Newton next year has very little. He doesn't have any guaranteed money, so you're going to pick up, I think, $17 million in the cap if you decide to move on. It gives them a real opportunity to make an informed decision, and they should push this as far into the future as they can, because even if Cam comes back, there's no guarantee that he's back and is going to be able to maintain that status throughout the course of the season. So taking as much time as possible, to me, is the right way to go here.
Okay, so you mentioned they did not lose because of Kyle Allen. That is correct. And just like a couple of those wins, they didn't win because of Kyle Allen. But the reason this conversation got started was because they had the glistening 4-0 record since Cam got hurt. Kyle Allen, for the first time this season, played an excellent defense, and Kyle Allen looked a lot like we thought, or at least I thought, Kyle Allen would look when he first took over for Cam. Overwhelmed and not yet ready. Now, you're saying if the Panthers are going to essentially punt on this season in order to figure out what they have with Kyle Allen, that would be one path. With a defense that, yesterday notwithstanding, had been playing excellent, with a running back that, including yesterday, continues to play excellent, if and when Cam Newton is healthy, this is his job and should be his job. I don't you don't have to cut Kyle Allen next year. You have to see if Cam's healthy, can he continue the trend he was on the first half of last season? Can he stay healthy before you make what would be the most monumental decision this franchise has made since they drafted Cam Newton, which would be moving on from Cam Newton this offseason. So I've been very consistent on this. Kyle Allen has shown that he's not a disaster, so you don't have to rush Cam back. But if Cam's foot gets close to 100% after dealing with the Liz Frank, then you have to put him back in the lineup and see how he does healthy with this defense and this running game.
I don't think at any point did I say you're punting on the season by keeping that player in the game. Kyle Allen's done a very good job, and the one thing he's done consistently, or the one thing they've done consistently since he's played, is win. And the idea that it was the main reason why they lost yesterday, that's so far from the truth. That whole team played poorly, and I don't think if Cam Newton was in there, he would have had very similar stats, if not worse, with that level of pass rush, coming off the injury. I think it's important for this organization to really understand what they have, and if that means pushing Cam back another week, and another week will give him more opportunity to heal and should give him a better opportunity when he comes back, if he comes back, to be successful.
Yeah, one thing that they can say in this stretch with Kyle Allen is that he was more than just a game manager. You could see that their downfield passing attack, it had improved. He could drive the ball down the field. Yes, were they winning with McCaffrey? Yes. Were they winning with their defense? Yes, they were doing those types of things. But to say yesterday that now, he's just a perennial backup, he's just a street free agent, no. Also leadership. A lot of times we don't like to give younger guys credit for good leadership, because typically a quarterback, even though he might be a street free agent, this kid's been a leader no matter where he's been, because he's been a quarterback. And sometimes when you take over for a great player like Cam, they become overwhelmed by the situation. He wasn't overwhelmed by the situation. So I think Norv Turner, Scott Turner, they do believe that they do have a good prospect to continue work with. But Cam Newton, when he's healthy, and I don't believe he's going to be healthy this year. I don't know a quarterback yesterday, Rodgers, Breeze, Brady, that would have been good under the type of pressure that San Francisco, and because San Francisco, first quarter, they had 3 possessions. 2 times they scored a touchdown. They scored 27 points in the first. Who is going to be effective with that type of rush coming at you and you're behind on the scoreboard, Jenna?
So if Cam Newton is, after this Liz Frank injury, not going to really be 100% healthy for the rest of the season, why even taking a chance? Why take a chance bringing him back if you're going to get a 70% Cam Newton?
What are you saving him for?
Well, you had 4 wins with Kyle Allen, and you're saying he wasn't just a game manager.
Well, he's not as good as Cam Newton. We've seen too much of Cam Newton.
So 100% healthy Kyle Allen is not as good as 70% Cam Newton with what you saw and dealing with that injury?
If Cam is what he was the first 2 weeks of the year, then of course they stick with Kyle Allen. And I don't know if any guy gets to 100%, even if they don't miss a month or 6 weeks.
This is what we need to realize. Cam Newton is not as effective throwing the football. So the equation that you give me, it's going to lean in the favor of Kyle Allen because Cam is not the player. If he's 70%, that means he can't run the way he has. And he changed his throwing motion that's affected his throwing. So the truth of the matter is when you have a Liz Frank issue, it's the middle of the foot sprain. The coach just said it. Cam is not practicing. He's still rehabbing. I don't believe he's going to be healthy this season. And when Cam Newton is healthy, regardless, Josh Allen's dad would tell him Cam Newton's better than him. That's the obvious part. But Cam is not healthy that we can even conversate about it.
And go ahead, Coach.
Well, the other question mark here is, and Chris mentioned it, the change in the throwing motion. We don't even know whether or not that change has really stuck. We don't know whether he comes back, he's going to be able to play in the way that he feels he needs to play to protect himself from a throwing perspective. So that's a question that has to be answered too at some point.
Right, which has got to be answered before you move on from him. You brought up, and I wasn't saying you said they'd be punting on the season. To me, if at 4-3 in the NFC, if you say Kyle Allen's going to take us home with this great defense and good running game, to me, you'd be punting on the season. So I wasn't trying to put those words in your mouth. My opinion on that, but you're absolutely right that Carolina has a massive decision this offseason. Cam would be a very sought-after trade piece. I think they could get a first-round pick for him this offseason, given the teams that need a quarterback, given the fact that his salary for next year is only $20 million, which in today's era is backup quarterback, or not backup quarterback prices, but near backup quarterback prices. So you've got to, if he is close to 100%, put him back in the lineup. And the one thing I disagree with you on, C, is I think Kyle Allen, except for that first game against Arizona, who everyone throws on, had been exactly a game manager. He was under 200 yards passing per game. The best win they had was against Houston, where they scored 16 points. They were a product of Christian McCaffrey rising on the MVP list and that defense being great. My
measure wasn't in numbers. My measure is when I watch him throw the football, when I watch the flight of his ball, when I watch what the coaches call, he can get the ball on parts of the field that journeyman quarterbacks and perennial backup quarterbacks can't get to. So for me, I'm talking about his arm talent. And it takes some stuff inside, stuff that's tangible when you start leading the club, all right? And Carolina wasn't playing that great of football that anybody could have quarterbacked him. I think that, Coach, when you see this, when you see a guy on the field and you see the parts moving, guys like, oh, man, the game's not overwhelming. The game's not too fast for him. And you could see some of the stuff that they were doing, even with the running back, that the quarterback had to have enough talent to be able to orchestrate all those things. So a lot of times when we have an iconic quarterback like Cam, sometime when it comes who's going to replace him, we get caught in all these things. Kyle Allen has done a tremendous job. He got a $3,000 signing bonus draft day to come to Carolina. And to win 4 NFL games, facing the type of pressure, I think he's done a tremendous job based on what they thought the prospect would be, Coach.
Yeah, and what stands out to me is you don't hear any of the players or the coaches saying, of course when Cam's back, he's going to be back in, or how much they miss Cam. Their silence, to me, speaks volumes in terms of the feeling in the locker room. And maybe I'm stretching it here, but there's not a lot pushing to get him back in quickly.
Thanks for watching. Subscribe here to get the latest from the show. Also, be sure to check out more of the best clips from First Things First, or go watch a few segments from our other shows on FS1.